Thank you so much for joining us for today's Ask Amy podcast. We are talking about high water bills, unusually large water bills, and what you can do about them. What I do in my job is help people with things. And so when people email me and say, oh my gosh, what can I do? This has been sort of a thorn in my side because there's not anything really helpful. We can tell you steps you can take, things you can do. But for a lot of people, at the end of the day, they still have to pay that bill that they didn't think that they owed. So joining me today is Ashley Martins. Thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure.
The reason that I wanted you all to hear from Ashley Martins is because he sued the city of Houston over his very large water bill. Mr. Martins, do you remember how large your bill was?
I don't recall the exact amount, but it was over $2,000.
Over $2,000.
Correct.
So we're going to get into all those details, but I think when you hear it was so bad, you couldn't get any response from the city, you couldn't get them to talk to you, that you actually had to sue. We want to hear the details of that, and we want to hear what happened. I mean, was it a success? So I'm going to let you kind of just start from the beginning. This was 10 years ago. We're talking 2012 when this happened to you.
That is correct.
Okay, so just as sort of a background, you are a real estate broker, so you buy and sell properties, and so that sort of made a difference in this because this wasn't your home that we're talking about.
That is correct. It was a property that was being repaired, and I set up the water bill in my name, and noticed there was a big leak at the house. For some reason, we had inclement weather. It was raining cats and dogs. And I contacted the city and let them know, look, there's a leak here. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but there's a leak, and can you send someone out?
So you said that the leak that you noticed, it wasn't anywhere inside the house, but it was close to the water meter.
That is correct. It was just by the street, by the water meter. So it was hard to determine, is it before the meter or after the meter?
Mm-hmm. Like your side or the city's side, as we now know, and people figure out once they get these bills that it makes a difference, whether it's your fault or your problem or theirs.
Correct.
So it was raining, so kind of hard to tell where it's flowing from.
Yes.
You called the city, called 311, or do you remember how you reported it?
Yes, 311, and they took the call and said someone will be there to assess the situation and get back to me. And they didn't get back to me until after 5 days, if I recall correctly.
Okay. What next when
they
did get back to you?
They basically got back to me and made me understand that the leak was after the meter, which is meaning that I'm going to have to find a way to fix it.
That the leak was on your side.
That is correct.
So you had to pay for repairs.
Correct.
So I'm assuming you did that.
I got it repaired, turned it off until it was repaired, and then got a bill for over $2,000 from the city.
So in your case, I mean, that huge bill, while it probably was a surprise,
yes,
you at least knew, oh, well, I know exactly why I got this $2,000 bill.
That is correct. It was leaking wide open, and once that determination was made that it was after the meter, so when I got the bill, I knew exactly what it was, but they didn't come out on time, and they want me to pay $2,000, which if they had come out the same day it was reported, this would have been perhaps maybe a couple $100 bill. And so that's the issue that I felt needed to be addressed.
So really, I mean, your sort of argument with the city is I shouldn't have to foot all of this bill. If you'd have checked it out when I reported it, it never would have gotten this high.
That is correct.
So who could you reason with?
I tried my best. I actually made 2 trips to the water department in downtown Houston.
On Walker Street.
Oh,
Leland.
yes.
Leland Walker, one of them.
One of those streets, yeah, but it's in downtown. And, you can't get past the front door, basically. You can't get to talk to anybody. So it was really just a wasted trip, but I kept trying because it was so high, and I didn't think it was fair to pay that bill.
And so that is still the way that it is today. I mean, there used to be sort of a storefront, like a water department customer service office. That's the one that I was talking about that was on Leland. It's closed. Like you can't go there anymore. The door's locked. People, I think, work inside, but they do not want you to appear to come talk to them.
That is correct.
And so if you try to call the customer service number that's on the website, you could be waiting a long time. You don't get a whole lot of answers. So so basically you're saying, I don't think I should have to pay this bill. They continue to send it to you.
Right.
What happened?
Well, what happened was they transferred the bill to my residence and continued to demand payment. And at some point on the day the lawsuit was filed, that morning, a city technician came out and turned off the water at my house. And I had a family of 6 or 7 of us at the time in the house without water, including an infant child.
Wow. Okay. So just to back up a little bit, so basically this account that was in your name, was it a property that you were going to sell?
Correct.
So your sort of leverage was, I don't have to pay this bill. Like, go ahead. Like, I'm not even in that property.
That is correct.
And then the city of Houston said, okay, well, then we'll just transfer this. I think it was $2,600. It was over $2,000. We'll just transfer it to your house. Right. And so you didn't file the lawsuit before they shut off your water. Correct. Tell us about that order. Like, what, you wake up one morning and you have no water, or what happened?
Yeah, I was out and about doing my work. I had family at home. And they called me maybe around 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning and say, there's no water. So at that point, I realized that there was only one choice, and which is to head downtown again, and dropped everything I was doing. I went downtown and filed a lawsuit.
Okay, what is your background as an attorney? Because I said, okay, filing a lawsuit, everybody's like, well, I can't afford to hire an attorney. If I hire an attorney, I might as well pay this huge this water bill.
Well, I have very close friends that are attorneys, and I kind of have an idea of what needed to be done. And since I was personally involved, I knew I could go downtown and file a lawsuit on my behalf, and at least just leave it out there. It's a special type of lawsuit called a technical restraining order, a TRO.
Okay.
And that's what I filed, basically. Impressed upon the judge that, look, this situation is unfair. I have family in the house, and I need your assistance in getting this water bill turned on while we're trying to sort out whatever needs to be sorted out as far as the bill.
Do you remember, I know this was 10 years ago, but do you remember filing fees? Like what, I know it cost you probably your day of work because you had to stop what you were doing, but do you remember how much it cost you to take out that temporary restraining order on your own?
The lawsuit, I think, probably at the time cost somewhere around $200.
Okay. Which, still for people trying to go this on their own, that seems like a lot, but you actually felt like for the first time you were able to get some results.
Yes. At that point, obviously with a judge calling the city and saying, look, I've got a situation here. Yes, I did get some audience from an attorney that works for the city of Houston.
Mm-hmm. And they were sort of willing to finally settle with you so that you didn't take it to a full-on go through what did they say?
Well, at that point, obviously the attorney presented the city side and I presented my side, and what we agreed on was to a bit of a reduction and then the rest spread over a certain number of months.
Okay.
I think if I recall correctly, it came out to about $40 per month. And I agreed that I will pay that bill, and that's how he got out of the court and went back to the normal billing and so forth. So every month I just paid that extra $40 in addition to my monthly bill.
Oh my gosh. Mr. Martins, had the city's water department, customer service, come back to you and proposed that months earlier, would you have been open to that?
Absolutely. I would have been open to it. I really felt they didn't do what they were supposed to do. However, I understand it was inclement weather. They probably didn't have all the technicians they would have loved to have for such at that time because of the weather. But At the end of the day, I felt the city attorney's proposal was fine. It was affordable, and I just felt, okay, I need to move on. It's not the end of the world.
Okay, so Mr. Martin's actions by filing that lawsuit a decade ago, I certainly hope that bill is all paid off now.
I actually can't say yes if it was paid up. I just kept paying. I'll have to go back to my records, but it's been 10 years, so I'm sure that at some point,
I mean, I hope you're not still paying $40 a month.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I think it was paid off after 2 or 3 years.
All right. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we want to talk about the change that resulted from one citizen in Houston filing that lawsuit against the city of Houston and sort of the change that it brought about. And then we'll tell you it gives some other recourse to taxpayers and water customers. We'll talk about that when we come back. Welcome back. Amy Davis here in this Ask Amy podcast, all about unusually high water bills and what you can do about them. My guest is Ashley Martins. He's a real estate broker here in Houston for some 30 years and just explained how you had to sue the city of Houston because of a water bill that you were disputing. You didn't think that you owed all of it. When you sued the city of Houston, not only did you get a judge with a temporary restraining order to get the city to turn your water back on to your family's home that day,
Yes.
You got a payment plan. And something else that happened, and I'm not sure how much you remember of this or if they even told you, is that the city attorney at the time, David Feldman, said there is something wrong with this picture when water customers have to sue the city of Houston that they're paying for service to be able to get somebody to listen and help with their case.
I do recall there was those conversations at the time, but I didn't actually follow up to see what happened as far as setting up the committee to listen to citizens that have situation with water bill. But I do recall the conversations and that there was some conversation along those lines.
So what they did is the city, because that takes a little while, right, for city council to vote and for everybody to decide what they're going to do. They created what's called a water adjustment board. And so these are 3 members of the board appointed by the mayor, whoever the mayor is at the time, to serve on the board. And if you have gone through all of the steps, if you've requested an administrative review of the bills that you're disputing, and then you don't like what the outcome of that, then you have 10 days to request an administrative review hearing, and they can't cut off your water while you're disputing that. If you're not happy with that, then you have 10 days after your administrative review hearing to request a water adjustment board review. And so that is when you appear before this 3-member board. One of them is supposed to be some sort of a plumber or professional that kind of understands the way that water and water meters work.
Right.
And then the other 2 people are just members of the public appointed by the mayor. So they hear all of your argument, they hear the city's argument, and then they make a final ruling case. Would you like to have made your case before them?
That would have been great to have had that opportunity, but nothing of such existed back in 2012 when I had my situation. But it sounds like something that would, in theory, help our citizens to resolve issues as far as water bills.
Yeah, I mean, at least in theory, right? So when we
Yes.
did a story in February on high water rates and sort of what people could do about it, at the time we said, okay, when is this board meeting? Because we would like to attend some of the hearings to see how it goes and take a camera. And they're like, we're not sure if that's going to be possible. So in February, they said, well, the last administrative review hearing, water adjustment board hearing, rather, that we've had was August 6th in 2021. And at the time, they were still conducting them via Zoom or, like some sort of video conferencing method. And then the next one that they had was April 29th of this year. So while they're supposed to be meeting quarterly, they're meeting, they didn't go quite a full year, but quite some time, certainly not every quarter. And now they don't know when the next one is scheduled. I was able to get a list of all of the people who had hearings before the Water Adjustment Board at that hearing in August of 2021. There were there were eight water customers that had a problem with their water bill that actually filed before, which I thought, wow, that seems very small. Okay, so if you're not going small compared to the number of people who are filing complaints with us about unusually high water bills.
Right.
So 8 people in August, and then they don't have another meeting until April. And in April, they had 21. It looks like 21 people to present before the board. But when I've called those people, most of them in from the August meeting, and said, hey, how did it go? They said it was a complete waste of my time. They said we didn't, they didn't change anything. Basically, I felt like all of the members of the Water Adjustment Board knew the city water department employees, and as soon as they stepped up, they're like, oh, how's your family? How's your children? So it's another resource, but I don't know that it's one that's necessarily working right now.
The thoughts that come to my mind are, number one, what are the charges being given to that board? Mm-hmm. I know what's the criteria? What has the city told them are the criteria they have to use in making decisions? Mm-hmm. Because if that is skewed towards favoring the city, then I can understand why the citizens will say, this is purely a waste of my time. Right. Do they believe that meters can be, erroneous?
Right.
Do they believe that, they may be erroneous, but not all the time, but sometimes? Do they actually believe that that they could possibly have faulty equipment?
Right.
Because if the city doesn't believe that, and they've given these folks, that type of a charge, then it's going to be a waste of time. I do realize that, yes, there are two sides to every story, but the citizens can't all be wrong all the time.
Right.
It's just not possible.
And yeah, exactly. And the city code of ordinance, or the city ordinance, does allow for, if you feel like your meter is wrong, that you can request that the city test your meter. You can ask to be there when they do it. You have to submit your request in writing. If they come out and your meter is right, they will charge you for coming out and testing your meter. And then, I think for some people, they're like, well, are you going to tell me if you find that anything's wrong? Just in terms of like a fair, like, hey, can we get a third party in here to test it?
That's a very good point. If you're asking the same city employees to come out and let you know that the city equipment is wrong, that to me doesn't sound like a fair process. And then with a warning that, hey, if we come out and you're wrong and the meter is correct, we're going to bill you. What do you think is going to happen? Most citizens are going to shy away.
Right.
Because you're talking about money. Now, so you don't want a situation where you're going to end up being billed more money for something that, it's already a problem.
Right. The money's already a problem because you have this huge water bill.
Yes.
Exactly. And so, the reason that this has just sort of been an issue that I'm like, oh, there's got to be some way. These are not cases that attorneys want to take because there's no money in it for an attorney. They're not, if the attorney helps you sue the city of Houston to where you don't have to pay that water bill, you don't want to pay the attorney because you just wanted to not have to pay what you didn't think you owed. I found one case in Florida, I believe it was 2017, where it took a whole lot of people complaining about their high water bills for this city in Florida, and it was a small city, to determine that the water meters were inaccurate, and they had to completely change out. It was thousands of them, and they passed along that cost to the manufacturer of the water meters. And so I feel like we always kind of have to keep an open mind that there is that possibility that my meter's reading fast, that something happened to it, that, that's a possibility.
Absolutely. This is a big city. Do you imagine? I don't even want to imagine the number of water meters that exist, residential water meters that exist in the city of Houston. Must be thousands with our population. So to believe that every single water meter is accurate is not realistic.
Right.
And then there's also some other things. I think there's the water also has some transmission type, electronic type parts.
Right, that pass your meter reading. So that it reads your
Yeah.
meter. I mean, your water meter's working, and then it has the device that transmits your reading
Yes.
back to the water department because they
Correct.
don't have actual manual meter readers anymore.
Correct.
And so sometimes that malfunctions.
It's definitely possible. If you work with any type of equipment, you know that it's possible. Equipment do occasionally malfunction. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Just one more stat. I mean, people always wonder if it's worth it to request those unusually high water bills, that adjustment that you can get once a year. In 2021, 10,611 Houston customers asked for a water bill adjustment like that. Just over 5,000 were approved by the city. So about half of everyone who asked for it got it. It's a one-time adjustment, and sometimes they'll reduce your bill by as much as half. It doesn't answer the question as to why was my bill that high, but it sort of gets you there. I appreciate you so much for coming in and talking to us today. So now, if you had to do it all over again, if you found yourself in the same situation, would you sue the city again?
Yes, I will. It is good to know there's this alternate procedure for citizens, but it doesn't sound like it's working like it should. But if it works like I think it should, I don't think that lawsuit may not be necessary. But it sounds like if you still have this number of problems with citizens regarding water bills, it appears that the process is not working like it should.
All right. Thanks so much for coming in. We hope you learned something today, maybe just to not give up hope and to keep fighting, right? If you don't think you owe it, then take all the steps out there that you can take. And filing a lawsuit on your own without hiring an attorney is one of those steps. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you so much, Amy. Appreciate it.